Vegas Rock Dog Radio. Pets, people, pop culture. Bring on the host, Sam, the queen of rock and roll dogs.
Hello everyone, I'm Sam, the queen of rock and roll dogs and the host of Vegas Rock Dog Radio. On today's show, I'm talking about animal news from around the world, so stay right there.
Let's bring on the host, Sam, the queen of rock and roll dogs.
Hi everyone, welcome to the show. I'm your host Sam, the queen of rock and roll dogs, and this is Vegas Rock Dog Radio. We're a rock and roll show all about pets, people, and pop culture. In studio with me today is Mr. Twix, a soggy Mr. Twix, and a soggy Miss Thornton, because not only did they have a walk in the rain, they also had a shower today, a much needed shower. And it's been a lot of activity for them today. They've had their big walk, they've had their shower, which they're always tired after a shower. So they're all settled in the studio. We've got the heat on because for some reason it's raining in Vegas. Weirdest weather ever. We've gone from snow to sun to rain, and they're all settled. I can't say the exact same for Jim. I don't know if he's going to be well behaved or not today, but Jim is in studio with me as well.
Probably not. Probably not.
Can I have a bit more on my headphones, please, Jim? Thank you. I think it is time for new headphones. How long were you saying how old these were?
They're 25 years old. You need new ones because you're deafening me on this side of the studio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's
wow.
way
It must be. It's got to be these headphones then.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Well, get out your secret money and you can go buy a pair for them.
Secret money. Who says I've got secret money stashed away?
I know you do.
My secret stash account. Anyway, before we get started on today's show, and it's going to be a show full of news from around the world regarding animals, we're going to tell you how to find the show on the internet. And it's rather easy. Most people are familiar with our website, vegasrockdogradio.com. You'll find us on Periscope, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Tumblr, and Instagram. And we have a blog, and the blog is therockandrolldog.com. And if you happen to miss the live show, which is always a shame because you never know what's going to happen in the show live, then, of course, you can catch up on iTunes, iHeartRadio, woohoo, Spotify, and it looks like we currently, and have been for a long time, on Spoke by SiriusXM, but it looks like Spoke may be going away, as in no new uploads. So,
Well, you're already on it, though.
I'm already on it, so I have to get a little bit more clarification on that, but it doesn't matter. Any podcast app that you have, our show goes up after the live show, and you will find us. Really easy. And also on iTunes, you'll find our Pet Tip of the Day show with a bunch of tips that are about 30 seconds long. And hopefully when you listen to those, you walk away with a little bit more information and knowledge about being a great pet parent. Well, Jim, I haven't even done a weekly update because I've kind of been consumed with the 80s Hairball, the event that we've got coming up on March 22nd for Rockin' for Rescues. And Rockin' for Rescues raises money for animal rescues to support them financially and with supplies. And so it's a big 80s Hairball coming up March 22nd. So it's a little bit consuming, as it normally is leading up to any event. And our event is at 3 Sheets Craft Beer and Bar in Las Vegas. And I will put the link in the show notes for you. It would be worth flying into Vegas for, wouldn't you think, Jim?
I would think so.
We do
People
have
do,
friends.
actually.
Yeah, we do have friends flying in for it, which is very exciting. What else has been going on this week? You've had a busy week. I've had a busy week. My dogs always have a busy week. Everything kind of circles around them anyway, doesn't it, Jim? It's about...
We have to get our steps in today.
We have to get... Yeah, the dogs definitely get their steps in. You know what? Jim even contemplated putting my Fitbit on the dogs.
Yeah, they might get more steps.
Do you know what? I would be curious. We could do it. We so could. Well, no, because it has to pick up a pulse, doesn't it? Or does a Fitbit go on...
Motion.
On motion? Oh, I think I might put it on Mr. Twix. I think I might put his harness on, put it on him for a day, the Fitbit, and let's see what he gets up to in an entire day.
Could do, yeah.
It would be more than most people who are training for a marathon. How far did you go today, by the way?
I'm looking at that right now. Hang on, I'll tell you.
Oh, you're doing a little update.
Well, no, I'll do the update at the end of the day, but let me check out my steps.
Oh,
today.
okay.
We didn't go very far today. Our walk
That's
this
right.
morning was only 2.5 miles.
Only. Like I say, more than most people.
Only 2.5.
This is an interesting story. This is a really interesting story, Jim. It's not the story. It's funny because, I don't know, I thought it was a completely different story that I put into the show, but now it's here. 40 members of the European Parliament are the latest to join the $1 Million Vegan campaign. $1 Million Vegan, launched by the founders of the popular month-long vegan... I never know how to pronounce it. Vegan like January, but veganuary. Veganuary.
They don't get a religious holiday.
Veganuary campaign. That's Matthew Glover and Jane Land is offering Pope Francis $1 million contribution to his charity of choice. Like they don't have plenty of money to start off with. If he commits to going vegan for the 40 days of Lent. Oh, I could think of other charities that would really, like animal charities. How about that? Has garnered support from a number of celebrities, including Paul McCartney. And he's always been big on vegetarian and vegan. Remember, they'd got that line.
Oh, yeah.
Linda started it decades ago. It was started off with literally like a veggie burger thing. And actor Woody Harrelson. Anyway, the group says the vegan commitment would take a firm stance against climate change. And 12-year-old vegan activist Genesis Butler hand-delivered a letter to the Pope encouraging him to make the pledge. And then it goes into a bunch of other stuff. And it's 40 days. Abstention from meat does indeed make a difference for the planet. And if every person went vegan for Lent, it will be the equivalent of the whole of Germany not emitting CO2 for a year. And then
Why Germany?
I don't know. I don't know why they picked that. Don't know. Excuse me. Well, that's pretty much it, really. That $1 million would have been nice to reach out to other prominent organizations. Here's the interesting thing with animal organizations. I think it's a gradual thing that the people first become vegetarian and then they may go on to being vegan. I think it's a thing that just comes over time when you work with animals. Like, maybe I don't want to eat animals. Maybe I'll go vegetarian, and then some people will go further on into being a vegan. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to reach out to any animal organization, and say, hey, if you're volunteers in your group, go vegan for 40 days, then you'll get X amount of money. And I think that would be fantastic. And then the animal organizations will benefit too. People will be incentivized. They will. They already work with animals. I think it would be a really good thing. I would hope, though, it doesn't say here, though, that they provide much support. Because it's not easy to go vegan, people. What you may think is vegan is not vegan often. And so I would hope that they would support some kind of support recipes or whatever. It doesn't say that, so I don't know.
Well,
don't say anything weird.
I'm not. I'm okay with however you want to live your life.
Oh,
vegan,
yeah.
Vegetarian,
yeah.
Pescatarian, meat eater. We genetically have figured out that we are omnivores, so we eat anything.
Yeah, that's true.
As a kind.
Yeah.
So, what you eat is what you are. You are what you eat.
You are what you eat. And that's why our dogs look so great, because they eat
Meat diet.
a species-appropriate diet, which is way closer to the ancestral diet than, anyone feeding kibble, for example. Talking of that, food, our friend Cole Harrington, who directed the whole thing of Pet Food, that's his creation. And wow, what an impact. What an impact that made. Pet Food, gosh, and it's been on Netflix forever and a day, which is brilliant. He's working on Pet Food 2. And there are he does put out some fun, interesting interactions that he has, with like the FDA and the USDA and that kind of stuff. Yeah, and he has to record it because, of course, they're filming and for legal purposes as well, and that includes phone calls. And they're aware of that, of course. But it's a good job he's got a sense of humor, because I don't know how he copes with some of the people that he's dealing with and why they just, will not provide information. And he's always applying for freedom of information stuff. And sometimes I'm just like, wow, they're just talking around in circles. You can't get a straight answer out of anyone. Anyway, Pet Food 2 is coming up. And it's funny because someone posted it in a group that I'm in. And they said, oh, everybody should watch this, da-da-da. And I said, oh, it's a friend of ours. We had him on the show. And yes, absolutely, watch it. It'll change your mind about how you're feeding. And Pet Food 2 is coming up. And, of course, there are always detractors. There always is, from anyone that sticks their neck out for any cause. But it was funny what came out of it. People, well, I think he should have given us a whole list of what's a good food and a bad food. But that's not the point of the documentary. The documentary is to expose the commercial pet food industry and the relationships it has with AFCO, the USDA, the FDA, the political side of it, and for you to at least learn how is that food made. And I'm telling you now, most people I know that have watched it, I say to them, and they say, I want to know about nutrition. I go, watch this first, so you understand what you're currently feeding. Then they come back and go, oh, no, I can't continue feeding that way. And, then we can give them resources. And there's tons out there, trust me. Oh, my gosh, if you want to go to feeding fresh food, and if some people are just uncomfortable themselves with the fact that if it's a raw diet, they're like, oh, I can't deal with it. You know what? Start by cooking it. But there are some amazing resources out there that I constantly send out to people. You've got Kimberly from Keep the Tail Wagging. You've got, she's got a book out, and it's A Novice's Guide to Raw Feeding. You've got Dog Dad. He's out there. Same thing. 101 Raw Feeding, I think it is. He's got a book on Amazon. I'll put the links in as well. You should be following Dr. Karen Becker. You should be following Steve Brown. You should be following Rodney Habib. You should be following Dr. Judy Morgan, Dr. Royal. I mean, there's so many people out there that are giving great information about food. Now, here's the great thing. Here's the really great thing. A lot of people then say, oh, I don't know if I want to actually take the trouble to feed raw. Well, you don't have to, because now you've got companies like Answers and Northwest Naturals, who are, it's a pre-made frozen raw food. And one of them, like what we feed our dogs now, because I was fully preparing everything for my dogs. But then Answers Detail is what we feed them now. Oh, it's ready to go, my friends. And it's all in the freezer. And you just defrost it, and it's fermented, which is so amazing for the gut. And away you go. So there are some great steps you can take. I mean, really great steps. I've got a friend of mine who's switched her dogs yesterday. She just said, oh my gosh, all these little ailments that they have, the ears and this and that. I'm just really fed up with it, And she started asking questions without giving her resources. Everybody got very excited. All our friends that do feed raw, so excited and helping her out. And she's going to start seeing some huge benefits. And that's what we've seen with our dogs. Better coats, better skin. They've got more energy. Their eyes are clear. Their ears are clear. I mean, Mr. Twix has come a long way with his one weird ear, hasn't he, Jim?
Oh, it was good today. I didn't get to wipe it out because he was like a
banshee,
like a Tasmanian devil after the shower. When his ears are nice and gray, they're good. When they get
He always
little
says
on the
grey, but it's pale pink, like pretty pale pink. He always says grey.
Gray.
As long as they're not bright red and inflamed, we're good. But yeah, I tell you, some dude does like to have a bit of a sneaky scratch on that one ear, doesn't he, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but they've come such a long way. You have to remember, we found him in the desert, and his ears were bleeding. I mean, I have never bleeding, infected. I've never seen anything like it. And finally, we're getting to that point. It's almost gone away, and it's the food. I'm telling you, people, it's the food. It's the supplementation. Same with Thornton. Years and years and years and years and years. Severe allergies, seasonal. So this time of year would have been a living nightmare for her, and she'd be in pajamas and a cone all the time. And we were trying everything that was possible. And finally, we've got it right. We've got her gut health really strong. Her immune system is up so that she can deal with, allergies. She can deal with anything environmental. She's in amazing shape, isn't she, Jem?
Yep, she's caught up like a little cashew right now.
Ah, she's so cute. I figured they would be rather tired after a walk and a shower. They were probably traumatized the fact that it was raining.
A little bit.
But I say there are tons and tons of resources out there. We're constantly talking about them. I constantly share them, especially on our Facebook page. And if you go to the page, in fact, in all honesty, it would be better if that was a group, because you can actually search in a group. It makes it so much easier. But I've been putting together files, actually, on our Facebook page. There's a tab and it says files, and on those files I can add whatever I want, basically. So there's a file with 50 tips of how to find a lost pet if you lose a pet. The tips also apply for someone if he's found a pet, because you still need to get the word out that you found someone's pet. There's a list of resources for people who need financial assistance when it comes to medical bills for their pets. There's a whole list on there, and I keep adding to that. So I'll put on there these resources when it comes to raw feeding, fresh feeding. Think about that. Like Jim said, you are what you eat. So if we eat junk, we look like junk. And if your dogs eat junk, they look like junk. Same with your cats as well. Now, cats do eat raw, believe it or not. They do. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for them to get used to it. But cats absolutely must have protein. Must. And since we had that little topic of vegan, do not put your dietary beliefs onto your pets. If you're vegan, do not put that onto your pet, because that's probably the most cruel thing you could do nutritionally. And I call it nutritionally abusing your pet. And you can't do that being a vegan, because that goes against your principles. You can't say, I'm going to deprive my animal of protein because I don't eat protein, when your animal should be eating protein because of its ancestral diet. You can't change that. And cats especially, and I've been in groups where people have done that, especially to their cats, and their cat's health has gone right down, and some people have lost their cats. So it goes against what your belief system is, and this is how I like to explain it to people. Don't deprive your animal of what it's meant to eat, because that's cruel. That is absolutely cruel.
Yeah, your belief system,
This is for you. Your belief system is for you.
You believe something, but given hunger, we all have to make choices, and we're lucky enough that we can have a belief system that we drive around for how we eat. But for animals, they don't have a belief system. They just want to eat. And
they rely on you to do the best for them. Jim and I are vegan. We're vegetarian. We do eat vegan once in a while, don't we, Jim?
Well,
if it's great and tasty, we're good with that.
I float in both boats, because I still eat fish and I still eat dairy products.
Yeah.
But I haven't had meat in it's almost 3 years.
Maybe something like that.
Beef,
but I would
chicken, pork, basically.
But I would never put my.
You eat less meat than I do.
I hardly eat any. And once in a blue moon, I'll have fish, and then I'm like,
I'm still a fish man.
Yeah, I'm not that fussed. Yeah. Never was in the first place. Anyway,
I'm really not a vegetarian because I eat fish.
But the thing, you're a pescatarian. But here's the thing: I would never put my beliefs on my animals like that. Your belief is for you, and I think that's important to remember. Anyway, it's not a religion, by the way. It's not a religion, although
or a militia. Get that right. Sorry.
That might be the quote of the show. It's not religion, and it's not a militia. Although saying that, we did I'm in a lot of vegan groups because obviously some of these groups do a lot of things with animals. But there's one group in town. Whoa. We actually called them the terrorist vegan group. They were that bad to people. I mean, really bad to the point of threatening people. It was bad. It was caught on video. It was not good. Anyway, I think that whole thing fell apart, thank goodness. And it was a known felon that was running the group. Like, what is going on? It was really bad. Didn't give a good name to the to the vegans in town. It really didn't. But it was crazy. But we'd say, "Oh, did you see what the vegan terrorists did today?" That's no joke. That's how bad they were. They scared me to death because what they were doing they were shutting down adoption events. They were shutting down adoption events at venues that sold meat. Now, here's the thing. They weren't selling meat. These restaurants were saying, and it's hard to get a venue. Trust me, it is hard to get any venue that'll say, yes, you can come on our patio and you can set up an adoption event. And they got restaurants to shut down those events. It was bad. And so that way they lost out on money and supplies for animals in animal rescue. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And I'd said to a friend of mine who was having an event, I said, hey, watch out, because, the vegan terrorists, because, they've already been in touch with me. And if they think they're going to come and shut my event down, he said, get ready. Because he said, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. They are not impacting the way I help animals. So, yeah, that was bad. That was a bad situation. But they earned themselves that name royally. They really did. Anyway, so, oh, gosh. What time did we start this show? How many minutes ago?
22 minutes ago in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 10 now.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to, in my
ago.
mind, know what the heck I was doing, yeah?
Or we could say we're 22 minutes into the show.
I much prefer that, yeah. Yes, to that. Check out this story. Gosh, talk about things being upside down, inside out, wrong way round. Woman shockingly receives 15-day jail sentence for rescuing crying bear cub from a trap in New Jersey. New Jersey, what are you doing?
Trapping's allowed in New Jersey? I didn't even know they had countryside there.
Did you understand the headline? Did you understand the headline?
It was a bear in a trap.
Did you understand the headline?
That she got in trouble for rescuing the bear.
Yeah, how crazy is that?
I can't believe the trapping is still allowed in New Jersey.
Why?
There's like people every square inch in that state.
Oh, no, I don't know. Anyway, Catherine McCartney.
Which is a cruel form of catching animals.
Disgusting.
I'm not into it.
Catherine McCartney was taken into custody by New Jersey State Police at a protest at the Whittingham Wildlife Management Area. It was a black bear check-in station during the first day of New Jersey's 6-day-long regulated bear hunt on October the 8th. This was the end of last year. It was reported on a woman who killed an innocent mountain lion and boastfully shared horrific photos during the aftermath of the shocking legal hunt in Colorado. Sadly reporting that woman... Oh, that was weird. Why was that even in there? Sadly today, they're reporting that on a woman who was sentenced to jail for rescuing this crying baby bear cub. That is so weird, this article, because it looks like they've mashed two stories together that don't make any sense. So she was sentenced to 15 days for rescuing a crying bear cub from a trap in New Jersey. How could she not? That's obviously how she thought. How could I not rescue this thing? Whether she knew it was the law or not, whatever. How could you walk by? Times like these may leave most compassionate people speechless, but our voices are needed now more than ever, not only for all the innocent animals at risk of being hunted and killed for so-called sport, but for the people trying to save them. And that's just... Gosh, members of the bear group were charged in opening a covert bear trap set by the New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife. So the actual division put those traps out there. And the fact that she released that little bear.
Why did they put the traps out? To keep the cubs safe? I don't know. Do we know the whole story?
How are you safe in a trap? You're injured.
No, they can have box traps where they don't hurt them.
Well, anyway, from freeing a crying cub from a bear trap, Kathy McCartney was sentenced to 15 days in jail and fines. She shared a post further explaining that Mark Magelhout, who was also apprehended, only received a fine because it was his first so-called offence. The statements in court focus on the fact that trash is the main reason why bears are lured into residential neighborhoods, and that's true. Yet the Hunter-backed state agency, New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife, refuses to enforce the feeding ban law. Oh, this is ridiculous. She said that the state's response is to ignore trash violations and then set traps and kill bears and then push for trophy hunts. She says this isn't wildlife management. It's a vicious circle and bears suffer because of it. Well, I will say that too. People are misled by the title. You know, oh, they must love animals. They're managing the wildlife. It's not always like that. They're the ones that organize these bear hunts and tell you how many you can kill a year or deer or whatever. Anyway, she was fined $1,316. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, the Bear Group stated that they will likely appeal these excessive penalties on behalf of their activists and that they will continue to provide updates on the case as they advocate for permanent bear protection. For now, the organization has requested that people send letters to the New Jersey local papers at the email addresses that they listed on this article. Bears must not be punished because Fish and Wildlife officers don't do their jobs. I agree. In California, they're strict with that. You trash, you have to have that secured. They do not mess around with that kind of stuff because, of course, they're going to come down and feed and find what they can. And if you make it easy for them to access, then, you know, of course they're in your neighborhoods.
Even where we live, they don't enforce any of that. I don't even think the police even know how to enforce feeding wildlife laws.
No.
And it's like, okay, well, why are you putting lettuce and carrots out for the chipmunks and the rabbits? And the people that are doing it are the people with little tiny dogs. I'm like, you're attracting a food source for predators.
That's right.
And you're using the same area.
And you take away the natural ability to find their own food and forage, which is really important. You don't want them reliant on human beings because you make them, you know, weaker in their own, you know, world. And that's not right. It's really not right. It's terrible, isn't it, that? Anyway, I applaud her for doing that. I couldn't have taken that. That would have been horrific. Absolutely horrific. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a quick break, Jim. Yeah, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about why sniffing is important. Not for Jim, not for me, but for our dogs. So you're listening to Vegas Rock Dog Radio with me, Sam, your host. And we'll be back right after this commercial.
Vegas Rock Dog Radio. Pets, people, pop culture.
Pet Scene Magazine is dedicated to Las Vegas pets and the people who love them. It's a source of news and information for pet lovers, as well as offering valuable coupons and specials on pet products and services. Find them online at www.lvpetscene.com or look for them on Facebook.
Vegas Rock Dog Radio. Pets, people, pop culture.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm just having a quick look on my Facebook here. Don't you love it when those memories come up? Well, some of them are sad, but for the majority, the memories are good. And you've forgotten about half the things. Did you know that yesterday was Siobhan and David's anniversary, Jim?
Yes, I did, because they sent the pictures.
Oh, good. That's my baby sister and brother-in-law. And the bouquet just came up that I made for her, and it wasn't flowers. I made a bouquet out of brooches, and it was gorgeous. But I can't believe that was a year ago that we're in the desert doing the funniest and best photo shoot ever for their anniversary.
Yeah, that was a year ago.
Yeah, it was an entire year ago.
I just sent you a recent memory just now.
You
have
did?
to accept it.
Where is it?
On your AirDrop.
On my AirDrop. Oh, I didn't get it. I have to resend it. Can you believe technology now? I can literally just drop images of video over to, you know, Jim or whoever. Have you ever done that where this is funny? This is really funny. I did this in the Cosmopolitan. I don't know if you were with me. It's not coming up, Jim. I don't know if you're with me or not in the Cosmopolitan, the secret pizza place. By the way, let me tell you about the secret pizza place, my friends.
Send a text.
There's a... in the Cosmopolitan Hotel, which is a great hotel. Trust me, they do the best Cosmopolitan, but they would have to with that name. Anyway, there's a secret pizza place. There is no name for the pizza place. You can't see it. You have to ask where it is. It's down this really long hallway that's lined with album covers all the way down, and some hilarious ones. And there's usually a line, so I'm not going to lie to you. And it's open till I think 3 a.m. But typically people on there and that line are sharing photos and stuff. And they say, "Oh, airdrop it to me," Well, if you've got your airdrop open to anyone, I've done this before. When I said to my sister, "I'll airdrop you this," and then a bunch of names come up, and we just airdropped it to all these random people in line, and it's hilarious. And we start laughing because start looking at people as they realise they got an airdrop and they accept it, and we just crack up laughing. And it actually does start up a conversation, but try it; it's hilarious. As long as you're sending something that's not crazy, too crazy anyway. Oh my gosh, too funny. Oh, that's a cute picture of the dogs in the studio. Yep, they're sleeping because I can't see them from my desk. Right, so let's get on to sniffing. We talked about sniffing last week, I think, on a walk, how it's really important that your dog gets to stop and sniff and explore, receive information upon the walk, because it's very good for their health because they're using all of their senses, yeah? Well, now there's some research, and it's this just came out. Allowing dogs to sniff helps them think positively. Because I'm always that person. Stop dragging your dog away when it's sniffing. Stop getting irritated. Come on, come on, come on. Let them sniff. The dog walk is for the dog, not for you. There are benefits for you, but it's not for you. Anyway, a dog's nose is a work of art, and they need to use it. Most dogs like to sniff when they're on the go. This article came from... Where did this article come from? Oh, I'll have a link for it later, I think. I think it's from one of the research centres. And it's estimated that they sniff around 33% of the time when they're moving here and there. And this is how they pick up all sorts of information about who's been there, whether it's a female who's reproductively active. They said we don't know about males, but they know how big they are. How amazing is that? And perhaps what they're feeling. That's amazing. Allowing dogs to take their time getting to know each other's marks prior to face-to-face interactions might therefore help dogs have smoother introductions, giving them more social cues to guide their behaviors. Oh my gosh, this is kind of mind-blowing. They said for more details, see when small dogs pee, are they saying it's really not me? Okay.
What?
That was, I don't know, that was Canine Confidential. When small dogs pee, are they saying it's really not me? Can you find that for me, Jim?
Yeah.
And why do dogs do what they do? Secrets of the snout. The dog's incredible nose. That's another one. Being a dog is another one. Following the dog into a world of smell is another article, or I guess a book. And unleashing your dog, a field guide to giving your canine companion the best life possible. Anyway, let's move forward a little bit. The bottom line is simple. Let a dog's walk be for them. Hallelujah. And they're pulling you here and there with their nose pinned to the ground and occasionally snorting. Let them do it. And they said in this article, I've often thought that not allowing dogs to sniff and to exercise their nostrils and other senses could be a form of sensory deprivation. Ooh, remind me to talk about a sensory walk, Jim. Okay. Yeah. Thus,
when dogs wee, is it me? Is that what I'm looking for?
When little dogs wee, was it really me? I don't know. That's a strange title. Thus, they said they were thrilled when a woman at a dog park once said to me, rather seriously, that she thought that not allowing dogs to do their noses the way they want could cause serious psychological problems. I thought about this a lot since then. We really don't know if dogs suffer psychologically when they're deprived and can't fulfill their need to sniff and pee if they choose to do so. Surely, when dogs are rushed along, they don't get to savor and properly assess and process various odors. And who knows what this does to them? This form of sensory deprivation might be devastating since they lose detailed information about their social and non-social worlds. Whoa, that's amazing. She said, embedded in this thinking is the fact that most dogs are indeed captive individuals who we control most of, if not all the time. And it's true, isn't it? It's a dog's life is sometimes used to describe days filled with laziness and pleasure. All a dog must do after all his sleep, lays around, eat and hang out with friends, and what could be easy, especially when someone reliably plops down a bowl of food for you at every meal. However, The lives of home dogs aren't necessarily all fun and games, and living as the companions of humans comes with some important compromises on the part of dogs. Looking at dogs as captive beings isn't a negative judgment, because being captive doesn't mean that a dog is ill-treated or unhappy. Rather, it is the crucial starting point for understanding our relationships with and responsibilities to our furry friends, relationships that are very often favor us. So I like that, because this article is saying, really look at what your dogs need. It's really important that they get to be dogs. So they said, following upon these possibilities, namely that sniffing might make dogs feel better, and she was thrilled to learn of an essay available online for free in a posting on the Companion Animal Psychology website, which is a great website, by the way. Finding hidden food in nose work increases dogs' optimism. Opportunities to use the nose, make choices in nose work, are good for dogs' welfare. And this piece was by Dr. Zazie Todd. What a name. And summarizes a research paper by Doctors Charlotte Duranton and Alexandra Horowitz, and it's called "Let Me Sniff: Nosework Induces Positive Judgment Bias in a Pet Dog." Hang on. Nosework induces positive judgment bias in pet dogs. That's in the press in the journal Applied Animal Behavior Science. Anyway, currently only the abstract is available online. Dr. Todd writes, though, the study used a test of optimism, also known as cognitive bias, in which dogs were first trained that a bowl in one location would always contain food, whereas a bowl in another location never did. Then the test involved an empty bowl placed in an ambiguous location, equidistant from the other two places. The idea is that the length of time taken to get to the bowl reflects the dog's optimism that would contain a piece of chicken. That's interesting. And in this research, Doctors Duranton and Horowitz studied 20 dogs of different breeds who were at least 1 year old. 10 dogs did nose work during which they were allowed to sniff and search, whereas 10 dogs did heel work during which they weren't allowed to search with their noses. The highlights of the papers are: nose work reduced dogs' latencies to reach an ambiguous pot in a cognitive bias test. That's a long title. And nose work increases dogs' positive judgment bias or optimism. Practicing nose work allows dogs to express a natural behavior and be more autonomous. Behaving naturally and making active choices are two key factors in animal welfare. And olfaction-based activities, that's through the nose, contribute to dogs' welfare. The experimental setup can be seen in this link that I'm going to post for everyone. You can take a quick look at that. So they tested the effect of olfaction-based activity on pet dogs' emotional states, and dogs were first given a cognitive bias test. They then practiced a daily specified activity for 2 weeks, and finally they were given a cognitive bias test again. And the activity conducted differed between the groups. Dogs from the experimental group practiced nose work, and the dogs from the control group practiced that heel work. Results show that the latency to approach the ambiguous stimulus declined significantly after treatment in the experimental group, whereas the latency did not change for dogs in the control group. We conclude that allowing dogs to spend more time using their olfaction through a regular nosework activity makes them more optimistic. By allowing dogs more foraging time, their welfare is improved. Applications for pet dogs in daily life are discussed in this as well. It shows it's important to give our pet dogs choices and opportunities to make their own decisions and chances to use their nose. And I think I'm going to say this probably goes right into dog training as well. Choices. Instead of no, what do you learn from no? Or stop. What do you learn? You don't learn.
Not really.
No, you don't. You've got to give choices. This is the better one. This is the bad one. Yeah. I'm sure it dovetails right into that. Anyway, they said that doing so is good for the welfare, which is likely why the nose work training led to better results than the heel work. After considering alternate explanations, including that there were individual differences amongst the dogs that influenced their behavior, that nose work trains dogs to trot or run faster, and that dogs did not use olfaction to elevate the pot, and that the shorter latency to reach the bowl was indeed due to a more positive judgment bias. present study shows for the first time that practicing nose work increases positive judgment bias. Levels of optimism in dogs goes up, suggesting that olfaction-based activities may be a useful tool to improving welfare in owned dogs. I'm also going to say that probably is going to improve it in rescue dogs who really are limited by their situation, particularly if they're in a shelter, not so much if they're with a foster parent. But
I couldn't find it, by the way.
Oh, you couldn't? They're most certainly limited in shelters. But that also depends on your shelter. And I'm going to tell you a little thing here that my friend does. Anyway, these two doctors said they look forward to doing a lot more research on the importance of allowing dogs to exercise their nostrils and other senses. Indeed, one of the 5 freedoms for non-humans is to allow them the freedom to express normal behavior by providing sufficient space, proper facilities, and company of their animal's own kind, which I talk about the 5 freedoms constantly. And anyone who's watched dogs being yanked along on a tether or being interrupted when their nose is up into the ground or to different parts of dogs or humans knows why they really need to sniff, No. That's a weird sentence. That's so weird. Anyone who's watched dogs, blah, 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 up into the ground and humans' bodies knows why really want to sniff. They missed out some words. Someone needed to check their edit on that one. So allow them, don't deprive them. Through this research, they're saying they have a lot more confidence. I think that's a brilliant thing. They get to be more of themselves, which is what you should be aiming for. And they said, and that way you can influence their mood. You can influence it in a negative way and certainly in a positive way. Dogs speak with chemicals. They pick up tons of information from sniffing the mouths, ears, bodies, groins, butts of other dogs. Even if some people don't like their dog engaging in these acts, they're 100% dog appropriate and they need to be allowed. So I think that's one of those things. Don't sniff that. Oh, it's disgusting. Blah, 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 blah. They're picking up information. It's normal.
Sometimes a sniff leads to a sneaky little rub in a pile of something.
Yeah, I know that.
Still have to interfere in that.
So I'm talking about that kind of impact on dogs that are in shelters. And gosh, I know a lot of shelters from all over the world. And I would say it's a very small percentage that truly work on those 5 freedoms. And the one that they're just talking about now, freedom to express its own natural behaviors. But I'm going to tell you this. Our friend Tina, who has Galgos del Sol Rescue in Spain, she is covering all the bases. She's covering, and let me tell you, she is inundated with dogs daily. Right now, it's so bad right now. But she has a sensory garden. Are you asleep?
No.
What were you doing? Like you're in a jazz trance or something.
I might have been, but I'm still here, crying out loud.
She's got a sensory garden that she's built at her rescue.
With different smells all over
different smells, different textures, different objects, things that a rescued dog could be fearful of. So it's a way of helping them be able to be adopted and then move into homes in a much better emotional state, because they're not scared of some stairs and they're not scared of walking between potted plants, but they get to smell, they get to observe things, they get to experience and walk over certain textures, whether it's pebbles or whether it's walking in soil, whether it's walking up a ramp, and it's fantastic. And she's meeting every single one of those 5 freedoms, and I'm always in awe of her, because her whole goal was, I'm moving to Spain with my husband's Spanish, and my kids for a quiet life. She gets there and wants to know why all of these dogs are all over the streets. And I will put a link in to our interview, because it's phenomenal what she's done. It should be made into a movie. Absolutely. It went from her taking dogs into her own house to raising money bit by bit by bit, building what I consider one of the most amazing facilities, with everything available that should be available to dogs, including that sensory garden, brilliant, purpose-built. Every little detail thought of. For example, the food bowls and the water bowls are. I think the water is automatic. It's automatically filled. Nothing's on the floor. They can clean properly. Everything's elevated. It's brilliant. That place is brilliant. Big education center now, but she really has the dog's welfare in mind foremost. And here's the thing. When it comes to welfare, all these freedoms, all of them are equally important. You can't say, well, at least the dog knows it's going to get fed by us, blah, 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 but the dog never gets to walk. I mean, that's why they don't do well in shelters. Or in boarding. They just don't do well because you're not letting them express normal behaviors. And I would highly recommend anyone that does have space to actually create this sensory walk so they can use their olfaction and get lots of satisfaction from the olfaction, Jim. A little Rolling Stones in there.
You and your words.
Oh, my gosh. Here's a great... let me tell you where that came from, by the way. That I have a link at the bottom of my notes here. I just want to make sure... Where is
What got you on this smell thing? Our walk the other day?
Well, I talk about it all the time. I mean, yeah, your walk's going to take longer. Like they say, 33% of it you're going to be hanging around. You're going to be hanging around. That was from Psychology Today, was that article. Okay, so now I've got that covered. I'm in good shape. Let's talk about, oh, yeah, this is a good topic. And I thought it was a great way that this was put. And you'll have heard this a million times before with people that use or have used shock collars and that kind of stuff, aversive, equipment to train their dogs. You will have heard, I don't even have to use it. I just have to show it to him. Yeah. And I've heard that a million times anyway. In this great article, it's something which people say quite often when they're using an aversive tool to train their dog. Basically, a dog that hurts a dog, damages a dog, whether it's psychological or physical. And when we explain why we choose not to use aversive tools, like, for example, spray bottles, yes, because it's also about you shouldn't be startling and scaring your animals either. It's not just about the physical stuff. I mean, it's about scaring them. Imagine being in your house and your husband jumps out from behind a door every 5 minutes, when you didn't do something right. I mean, you're going to be a wreck. You're going to be an absolute wreck. So it's spray bottles. It's those horrible shake cans with coins in it. It's rolled up newspapers. It's shock collars. It's prong collars. It's those kind of things. And their response is often, oh, but I don't even have to use it anymore. I just show it to him and he stops what he's doing. And I always say to them, congratulations, you've terrified your dog. No dog is scared of you now. Congratulations to that. Anyway, the underlying reasoning for this justification is that if you don't have to deliver the physical punishment but just threaten it, you are not hurting your dog. So it's not detrimental in any way. However, this logic does not stand up to closer scrutiny, and here's why. In order for the dog to stop or behave when he sees the spray bottle or newspaper, the dog has to understand that the sight of this tool leads to something unpleasant happening. So there's a connection there. How do we define unpleasant? Well, in the context of punishment, we talk about something that is aversive being something that causes feelings of pain or fear. I think the fear bit is always left out. In order for a dog to stop their behavior, the punishment has to create one of these feelings. If it was not scary or painful, the dog would not stop their behavior. So think about this. And the reverse happens, for example, elephants in a circus. I know it's going to hurt, so I'll just do whatever. I'll just do whatever you want to avoid that. So it's that kind of, thinking. No matter what terminology you use, you cannot get away with the fact that punishing tools work. And I think you need to understand what she's saying through this article. It's because they hurt and they frighten them. That's why they work. They comply. So it's not some I'm an amazing trainer. Look at me. I shocked my dog. It works. I'm a great trainer. Yeah, your dog is terrified of you. It's awful. I mean, it's just awful, isn't it? In this day and age, what the heck, Anyway, they said no matter what terminology you use, you cannot get away from the fact that punishing tools work because they hurt or frighten dogs. Yes, there may be degrees of pain and degrees of fear, depending on the nature of the tool being used and the temperament of the dog. But for some dogs, the sound of a newspaper slapping against them and the sight of the human that they rely on brandishing the newspaper is worse than low-level stimulation from a shock collar. Yeah. So once the dog associates the sight of an aversive tool with the punishment that it delivers, they will respond to the sight of the tool in an attempt to avoid that punishment. The sight of the tool becomes a signal of punishment, and the dog will change their behavior to avoid the actual punishment. There is usually no specific behavior the dog chooses to do instead. So we talked about choices earlier, but rather just a general inhibition. They just stop doing it, and possibly they'll run away as well or try and get away from the situation, or they'll be, going to appeasement, so they'll placate the scary human. If things go unexpectedly for the person holding the tool, they might even get fight. And that, you know what that means. Try and make the scary thing go away from you. And that's called a bite. Anyway, however, even if the dog avoids the physical punishment successfully, they still have that experience of the psychological threat of punishment, which has emotional consequences. So this is similar to being an abused person, an abused child, where you're in a constant state of, I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get punished. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. And they said, here's an extreme example. If a parent locked a child in the cupboard as a form of punishment, would there be no emotional consequences for the child if it is to a point where the parent just had to say, do you want to go in the cupboard? I mean, think about it. Do you want the belt?
Oh, I remember that.
You see? It's not right. Terrorizing your flipping kids.
Brought back some good memories.
Good? Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, that was a good memory.
Oh, my gosh. My dad used to just take, because it was the 70s, right? And they wore wide belts. He would go.
That is I can't believe you're even laughing about this. It's so messed up.
It's funny because he would go, come here, smell the belt.
That's so wicked. That is so wicked.
Oh,
I don't think you should do that to your dad. Your dad's no longer here.
I know.
I don't think you should do that.
That's funny.
No, it's not.
Smell.
Were you laughing?
Oh,
no, you
I'm
weren't.
gonna call my brother and remind him about that.
But you weren't laughing though, were you?
No, we learned appeasement tactics.
You didn't learn. You didn't learn anything.
We learned appeasement
no,
tactics.
No, you didn't.
And then my brother learned how to scream like it hurt worse than it actually was to get him to stop.
Oh, I think it's wicked.
We actually learned tactics.
You say it was the 70s. That didn't happen to me. There were no belts around me. We're the same age.
Look at how you turned out. Look at how
I'm
I turned
fantastic.
Out. Look at you. Look at me.
I'm fantastic. And you're messed up because you think it was fun. That was really messed up.
It was hilarious.
Oh, my.
Kind of hit a tickle point.
Here's Really, you just wrecked my article.
No,
anyway,
I was just talking.
Or just saying, do you want to go in the cupboard or look meaningfully at the cupboard door in order to get the child to stop immediately? Of course not. Of course, well, in Jim's case, it's a whole different story. Anyway, being threatened with something scary or painful is still aversive. Get it into your heads, people.
Okay.
Anyway, she says, now, I'm not suggesting that people who smite their dogs with newspapers or use spray bottles lock their children in cupboards. I am pretty sure most of them would be horrified at thought of doing something like that. I'm just highlighting the fact that, well, I don't actually have to spray him anymore. I just pick it up. It's still emotionally aversive, and it means that something nasty has been done to the dog in the past. And I think that's a good argument for anyone that says, oh, I don't have to show it to him. Yeah, that's because you've actually basically damaged your dog previously. You've done something horrible in the past for your dog to have that reaction. So you're still a horrible person. Anyway, punishment only works if it's unpleasant. I could roll up a newspaper and threaten my dogs with it, and they'd look at me happily and expectantly. Is this some fun new game? They have no negative associations with such a behavior because they have had no experience of being hurt or frightened by something like that, she said. So having your dog shut down, withdraw, or offer appeasement as a result of the method you have chosen to train them with is nothing to be proud of. Oh, gosh, do I like that particular... I think it's a great way to explain it to people. I think, that people have said it to me. Well, I've only used it one time before, and all I have to do is show it to them. Yes, because what you've done is you have hurt your dog physically or emotionally in the past had that full association with that method. So you've already done the damage. Don't act like you haven't hurt your dog previously. It's a very good way of explaining it. A very, very good way of explaining it. And that was Taryn Blythe wrote that article. I think it's a great article. I think that's what I'm going to share in a couple of the training groups that I'm in. Very good. Very, very good. We'll have to keep that one. That's a keeper. There's a couple of other news pieces here. Let's see which one I like the most. There's a bill to ending cub petting exhibitions.
I'm just going to keep you on track because you got a little less than 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So
let me just see what little blurb there is out there that would be interesting. Oh, here we go. So this is how we'll probably close the show out today. And the BLM drops wild horse sterilization experiments and plans to return some horses and burros back to the range. Never thought I'd hear that headline. But I'm also of that mindset that probably have to dig a little bit deeper because, sometimes it's not all what it's cracked up to be. I mean, first of all, it says return some of the horses, so what they're doing with the rest. Anyway, wild horse advocacy groups are hailing an announcement last week by the Bureau of Land Management to officially abandon any plans to use mares rounded up from Oregon's Warm Springs herd management area for cruel surgical sterilization experiments. Now, the BLM is seeking public comments on its plan to return a portion of the wild horses back to their home range after removing the entire population in a mass roundup last fall. It's just outrageous, really, that they even rounded them up. The American Wild Horse Campaign, the Animal Welfare Institute, the Cloud Foundation, and its executive director, Ginger Catherines. She actually happens to be a member of the BLM National Wild Horse and Burro Advisory Board, and photographer Carol Walker sued to stop the sterilization experiments, which involved performing an outdated surgical procedure, which is an ovariectomy via colpotomy, described by veterinarians as unscientific, inhumane, and dangerous. Now, back at the end of last year, a federal judge issued a preliminary injunction to stop the federal agency from its cruel and controversial plans. The plaintiffs said they were pleased by the BLM's official abandonment of the experiments as part of the Warm Springs HMA management plan. Anyway, the plaintiffs have also advocated for the return of some of the 845 horses rounded up. Good grief. Now that the BLM plans to return some of the horses to the range, the agency will administer PZP, fertility control for the mares before they are released.
What's that chemical?
Here's the thing. It's a fertility control pill, basically. Ugh. Anyway, the BLM decision to end its misguided ovariectomy experiments on these wild mares and instead employ humane immunocontraceptive vaccines to curb population growth is a welcome outcome for these federal protected horses. Well, hey, you know what? I'd much prefer them to be wild and out there, not even, control that. But it's better than being rounded up and killed. Way better. They said we are heartened that these wild and free-roaming animals will not be subjected to an invasive surgical procedure that will put their lives at risk. The agency should, however, return a significant number of the horses back to their range on these public lands. I don't know what they say their problem is with these wild horses. I mean, we've got loads out here, but they've been rounding them up, and it's disgusting. This is their land. There's plenty of space for them. Anyway, they said the BLM made the right decision to abandon these barbaric experiments and to return wild horses to Warm Springs. When these things come up and they ask for public comment, get involved. It's so easy now. You can do it by an email these days. But the more people speak up, it's a better, what do they call it? You get a better gauge of how the community feels in general. I know tons of people that love animals and helping animal rescue, but when it comes to public comment or to show up somewhere at the county commission, they just don't show up. It's not, they do care, but it's like, if you could get people to just one extra step. Because it always seems like it's a real minority of people that love animals, but it's actually a very big percentage of people. Anyway, they said they are pleased that some of the mares will regain their freedom and be managed humanely. It says leaving only one horse for every 4,000 acres is ridiculous, but certainly not unusual and speaks to the unfair allocation of forage for our wild horses. It says, however, releasing a low population of 111 horses seriously endangers the genetic viability of this herd. Although she said, I'm relieved that the BLM will be releasing a small number. This is Walker. She says she's very concerned about the fate of those who will not be released, and face a very uncertain future. Wild horses and burros are always better off in their homes, on our public lands where they belong, and they have been there for centuries. They are the country's history. Yes, as I say, sometimes you just have to be happy something happened as opposed to nothing, you know. But that's it. That's my news from around the world. From the Pope.
Yep, you just gave them all the dope.
To New Jersey. We've been all over the place. There were a lot more stories, but we can't get them all in. But I will share them in links below on my show notes, and I will put them on social media for you to read. There is one quick one. I'm not going to the whole detail of it, but there's an elephant rescue in India, and because the weather was getting super, super, super cold, the volunteers at the rescue, it's a sanctuary, they knitted basically pajamas for the elephants. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. They're the kind of people you want to be friends with. So if you've liked today's show and you're listening to the show on your smartphone, of course, there's an option where you can share the show directly with all of your social media networks. And we love a good old share of the show. And remember, you can always help an animal in need. Rather rescue, adopt, donate, volunteer, or share their information. Or if you get a chance to do a public comment, do so. And rescue your next family member. Replace the word shop with adopt, and be kind to all animals. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim, for running the show for me. Thank you for my dogs, just for being so cute and bringing so much joy into our lives. Please take a moment to like our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and don't forget to post pictures of your pets. We love to see your fur babies. And today you've been listening to Vegas Rock Dog Radio, where it's all about pets, people, and pop culture. I'm your host, Sam, the queen of rock and roll dogs. And always kiss your pets good morning and good night. And I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Vegas Rock Dog Radio. Pets, people, pop culture. You've been listening to Vegas Rock Dog Radio. Pets, people, pop culture.
Visit Vegas Rock Dog Radio for more information. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And subscribe on iTunes and iHeartRadio. And remember, give your fur babies a big kiss from me, Sam, the queen of rock and roll dogs. You must not rely on the information in this broadcast from our host as an alternative to medical advice from your veterinarian. If you have any specific questions about a medical matter regarding your pets, you should consult your veterinarian or specialist.